Hi, I'm David Ceruolo. This is my friend Tina Crowley from Remax Trinity.
Hi.
We're back again for part two of when we have an older client who's looking to sell their home and then purchase a new home. So now we're on to when our older client wants to go out and look for a new home.
Yep.
And presumably our clients are going to want to downsize and look at condos.
Yes.
So now we're talking about condos and a purchase of a condo. So what do you typically start off with talking to the client about and try to determine?
Right. So I'll meet with them and we talk about always wants versus needs. What are the must-haves? What are you looking for in a condo? Lots of times, do you want garage parking? Do you want deeded spots? How much visitor parking are you interested? Do you want an elevator in your building? Do you want some of the nicer amenities like a pool or a workout area, things like that?
Tennis courts.
Tennis court,
Yeah.
yeah. And lots of times we have the conversation about, do you want stairs? Because sometimes they're looking in the future, 8-10 years down
Yeah,
the
they
road.
can't do the stairs anymore. They
Correct.
want an elevator.
They don't want the vertical challenge.
Right.
So we make a list. I help them come up with wants versus needs, and we base the search on that.
Okay.
We go from there.
All right. So then you're out looking around at units,
Mhm.
and maybe things will change as they're looking around.
Sure.
They figure out that they want something else. Maybe they don't want a townhouse looking condo. Sometimes they might think that they do, and then they see the stairs and they say, nah, we don't really want it. So now we come to the offer portion of the purchase now. So they're looking to purchase, and they're going to be selling their home as well. So what are we going to talk about initially from your end? And then I can talk about my end a little bit with the offer.
Sure. So, I've gone out, I found them a fantastic place. They're happy about that, and they're ready to write an offer. So writing an offer on a condo or a townhouse is different than writing an offer on a single family or a multiple family. So again, in part one, we talked about always protecting them.
Mm-hmm.
We protect them by writing an offer that is subject to the condo docs, review of the condo docs, bylaws, budgets, and reserves.
Mm-hmm.
We always want to look at the meeting minutes for any upcoming assessments. And the reason why we add this contingency, along with other contingencies, it's contingent upon the sale of their home. The reason why we add these contingencies about the bylaws, budgets, reserves, is so that we make sure beforehand that we can review all these documents before we get to purchase and sale, and make sure that the condo association is being run well. We want to make sure that their finances are in order, that what the requirements are in the condo docs meet a good standard, so that our clients are not put in a position where they're in a building, in a condo association that is not well run.
I get it. Yeah, so, and then what happens usually at the offer stage is Tina will come to me and say, I have the clients ready to go. And so then the first thing I usually will ask you for is the condo documents.
Correct.
And so I'll take a look at the master deed, the condo trust, which usually there's a trust when it forms an association. And the budget, we want to make sure that the condo association is in the black, that it's not in the red. And we also talk about the percentage of ownership as opposed to renters, because that makes a big deal when our clients down the line, maybe they're looking to sell the condo eventually down the line. If there's a lot of renters there, plus the upkeep of the building. If there's a lot of renters there, renters have a tendency not to upkeep the building too well. And the percentages have something to do with a future buyer's financing, especially when the condo has to be approved by a lender. So that will all go into it. I will look at the minutes of the meeting, and once again, we want to make sure that there aren't any assessments coming up or increases in the condo fees. Now, typically, the condo fees are going to include common area expenses, but if there's any capital improvements or any improvements going on inside the building, then that usually means there's going to be an increase in the condo fees, or there's going to be a special assessment down the line to the unit owners. Now, special assessment is an assessment that wasn't foreseen by the association at the beginning when they established the budget. So we want to make sure that that's not coming up down the line, because the last thing we want to do is have our clients move in.
Correct.
And then they're going to get hit with an assessment. And then they say, what the heck is this all about? Once again, going back to the association, if the association is a management company, then that's fine, and that there's probably formalities that are put in place for folks to deal with the management company. The only downside to it is they have to understand that a management company doesn't live at the building, so therefore the management company might increase the fees quickly as opposed to thinking about it. When you have an owners association, that means that there are unit owners that are involved with the actual running of the association, and they're a lot less likely to increase the condo fees down the line because they don't want to pay the increase either. So that all goes into it. Now, when it comes to the contingency, once again, when we talked about part one, was it was going to be subject to the purchase of their new place. Well, now that we have an offer on the table for the purchase, we're going to make that subject to the sale of their home, because most likely they're going to need the proceeds from the sale.
Correct.
And they want to have the ability to say to the seller at that point, if for whatever reason their house is delayed, the sale of their house is delayed, that the sale of the house is delayed and they need extra time to close on the purchase. Now, you know, it depends a lot if we presume that they're going to be using the proceeds from the sale of the house for the purchase. In many instances, that is the case, but they might be financing a portion of it too if they're able to qualify for the financing. Sure. So we'll talk to them about that and the financing contingency, which is once again that they have to secure their financing by a certain date prior to the closing in order to move forward. So those are all the things that we'll look at in advance, and coupled with that, you know, there'll be other issues such as capital gains, which we'll discuss. There'll be some other issues as time goes on. There's always issues that arise.
Yeah, they happen.
But the whole idea is to work together to bring them to the point where they're able to sell their home and then purchase the new. And, you know, we go from there. Yeah.
And just to touch on, you know, go back and touch a little bit on the condo association and things like that. We, as their realtor, I'm not just looking for a good association, a good condo for them now. We want to make sure that if they need to sell that a few years down the line, that they're able to do it. You know, our lives are always changing. I don't want anybody stuck, per se, with a bad purchase, with a condo association that is not well run. It can be very difficult to get conventional lending or a conventional mortgage for condo associations that, like you said, have a very high rental occupancy.
Right, a percentage of renters.
Correct.
Right.
If the association, if this association is not designating a percentage every month from all of those condo fees into the reserves. The other part is, you know, by them doing the right thing by the reserves, if an assessment or something is coming up, they can use a portion of the reserves to pay for that, versus you're constantly hearing about your HOA going up every year to cover these, you know, sometimes they're small jobs, sometimes they're big jobs.
Right.
You know.
And then likewise, playing off that a little bit, even if the association is informal, let's say it's a duplex setting or it's a building that doesn't have as many units in it, and you have an owners association in there, you want to make sure that, well, I advise the client they want to be as formal with the neighbors as they can. So if, you know, sometimes you hear, oh, no condo fees, wonderful. No, not wonderful. If they're all living under the same roof, then they could have a common problem, which is the roof goes.
Right.
And then who fixes it? Well, my advice to the clients always is you want to be more formal than less. You want to make sure that you work with your neighbors to establish the reserve if it's not established already, because God forbid something does go wrong with the building, there'll be a reserve to go to rather than fighting with your neighbors to, you know, have them pay their proportionate share of the expense.
Yeah.
So all of this all goes into it, and depending on the type of the building, we have issues to discuss with the client.
Right, and you know, that's one of the conversations we have try to have in the beginning. You know, obviously people go out and they look at things and they may fall in love with something they never expected to fall in love with. But you know, the conversation up front is, how comfortable are you going to be addressing concerns with the people you live next door with? You know, maybe it's just a duplex or it's 3 townhouses versus being in a large association where you have a little bit more autonomy, where you don't feel like you're fighting with your neighbor.
You don't have to fight with your neighbor,
correct,
right? Yeah, right.
Correct. You know, you have these meetings and maybe they take a vote, but you don't necessarily have to discuss those details with your neighbor.
That,
You know,
and
so
that, it all goes
it
into
all depends on
and that
how
all goes back
comfortable-
to, you know,
Right.
as they're looking at things may change. And so
Correct.
it all goes right back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Well, that was part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Dave Ceruolo. This is my friend Tina Crowley from Remax Trinity.
Hi.
And we're gonna do another one. I
Yeah,
think.
thanks for having me
I
back.
think we'll do
Yeah,
another one.
yeah,
I
thanks
think
for having
I think
me
we play
back.
well together.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we'll see you
thank
next
you.
time.
All right.
Stay safe.